evening. Welcome to another exciting version of Film Forum with Steve Markos, the host here, and my co-host Aron Siegel. How you doing tonight, Aron?
I'm doing fine tonight, Steve.
Can't be doing too well.
Falling all over my words.
All right. Anyway, like I said, another exciting version. We got a couple new films that are coming out. One coming out this Friday, and one that came out last Friday. And Aron, what do we have? Why should people stay around and watch our show tonight?
People should stay around just out of pure human kindness. But other than that, we've got two great films tonight. We've got the Beverly Hillbillies, and we've also got Demolition Man.
All right, that sounds like a winner. And then after that, we'll have our Critics' Choice. This week, we're doing our favorite avant-garde films. Those are kind of your artsy type movies that have been coming out. Not many people heard of them, so that'll give you a couple suggestions when you go to the video store this week. Then we have a very special guest. Aron, like as usual, he's in the guest department. Who's coming on this week?
Well, tonight, Steve, we've got Kurt Wilson. He's going to be on later in the show, and stick around. He's a sign painter, so we've got a really exciting show for you.
All right, and remember, we also have our Film Forum hotline now. Now, this is not the number to get live. It's 798-6981. If you have any comments or criticisms or suggestions for our show.
It's a feedback line.
Feedback line. You call that after the show. To be live on our show, you call 873-6713. That's to talk to us live. Okay. Anyway, let's get started here. What do you want to start with?
I'll start with the Beverly Hillbillies.
That sounds good to me. Let's do it.
Okay. Adapted from the Paul Henning comedy series of the late 60s, early 70s, this film is directed by Penelope Spheris, and you might remember her from Wayne's World. She and starring in the film, we've got Jim Varney as Uncle Jed. We've got Erica Eleniak as Ellie Mae. We've also got Cloris Leachman as Granny, and we've got newcomer Diedrich Bader as Jethro. This is the movie adaptation of the TV series, very much like the Addams Family and Dragnet and The Fugitive have all taken their cues from TV series. What we have now here is a scene from the Beverly Hillbillies film, where we've got Lily Tomlin as Miss Hathaway, and she's just spied the Clampetts coming onto the property.
Why do you reckon they got two sets of steps?
That's easy. One's for going up, the other's for going down.
Oh.
Hello, police. This is Miss Jane Hathaway. I wish to report the unlawful entry of a gang of armed and dangerous hooligans at the Clampett Estate, 518 Crestview Drive. I need you here, code 3, and I will be timing you.
I think you got you a new friend, Hugh.
Cease and desist. Everyone. If I were you, sir, I would yield, submit, and capitulate. What are you desperados doing here?
Well, it's a mighty long story.
But he don't mind telling it. Pa was hunting one day with old Hugh.
And Duke spotted this big old jackrabbit. So I throws up my gun and I takes my aim.
Don't shoot!
Pardon, ma'am?
2 minutes and 46 seconds.
Attention inside. You're surrounded. Drop your weapons and file out one at a time.
Don't shoot! They've taken me hostage.
Okay, and that's a scene from the Beverly Hillbillies. It opens this coming Friday.
We hope.
And it also stars Dabney Coleman. So this has got Lily Tomlin, Dabney Coleman, and a special guest appearance by Dolly Parton. So they haven't been together since 9 to 5. So.
Yeah, when I'm looking at a film like this, for instance, the Addams Family Batman, all I care about a movie like this is if it approaches the good-heartedness and the humor of the original TV series. I think this one does. I was very disappointed in the Addams Family and Batman because they took, especially Batman, took a campy, fun television series and tried to make it dramatic. The Addams Family, I just flat out didn't like.
But the Batman they took from the comic as opposed to the 60s series.
Yeah,
and the Addams Family, I loved the Addams Family. I thought it was great. Yeah.
I thought the characters in the Addams Family playing in the movie came nowhere near the charisma and the humor of the original ones. Whereas in Beverly Hillbillies, most of these characters act pretty much like they did in the television show.
They have got the characters down pat for this film. Everybody, including Jim Varney, who was you wouldn't expect him to be a very good Jed Clampett, but he ends up being an excellent Jed Clampett.
One thing I was thinking about, like usually when Tom Cruise used to play in Risky Business, and he only became taken serious when he played in Rain Man and Born on the 4th of July, he became a serious actor. I was kind of thinking, well, this might be Jimmy Varney's step up from seriousness. I mean, it's kind of bad when you got to play Jed Clampett to be
taken seriously from Ernest.
But yeah, he does a good job. I think the only one that didn't stay in character from the television show was Jethro. I think the original Jethro on the TV show was more of
he was more hyper,
an airhead, good-looking guy. Where Jethro in the movie here is he's kind of really stupid, and he grows on you after a while. But for the most part, all the characters, Granny, I mean, Gloria Sleason even looks like Granny.
Yeah, she sounds like Granny. The thing that I didn't like about this film, I didn't see as much interplaying between the Clampetts and newfangled devices and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, there were a couple of things, but it wasn't it didn't hold true to the original. It's like when they first got into the house originally, there was like almost an entire episode about the doorbell, where it's like, there's every time we hear that music, there's somebody at the door.
Yeah, well, they tried to do so much. They try to really take years of television and cram it into a half-hour movie. So
we didn't see Mr. Drysdale as much.
Yeah,
as
I noticed that Granny and her elixirs only, they touched on everything just a little bit, and you want to see some things that were expanded upon.
The one thing that I did notice is that we didn't have Mrs. Drysdale being old and fat. Instead, it was a young, trim Mrs. Drysdale.
This is one of those movies that's basically, it's so stupid that it's funny. I mean, I was laughing long after a lot of the jokes came out, just sitting there, just laughing for like a half minute afterward. Just can't believe in the stupidity of the show. But I love the TV show, and the TV show is pretty stupid, and I like this as well. And basically, if you like the Beverly Hillbillies TV show, you'll like this. I can't see liking this if you hated the Beverly Hillbillies TV show.
Right, so don't go and see it if you didn't like the Beverly Hillbillies.
I'm going to go with 2 stars on this. I'm
going to give it 3.
3, so we're coming out at 2.5 stars. That's a little above average on our 4-star system. And hopefully it'll be coming out this Friday.
Right.
All right, our second film we're going to get on with is called Demolition Man. Came out last Friday. Stars Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes. Now, Sylvester Stallone plays renegade policeman John Spartan, who is in hot pursuit of the maniac Simon Phoenix as the film begins. Simon Phoenix is played by Wesley Snipes. He eventually apprehends Phoenix, but in doing so, he causes the accidental death of about 30 or so hostages. As a result, he goes to jail right alongside Phoenix. Now, the year is 1996, and technology has allowed our penal system to actually be able to freeze criminals sort of in a suspended animation and then be able to brainwash them so they can be released back into society many years later. Well, the film then jumps to the year 2032, where utopia now reigns over America. Phoenix is unthawed, but it soon becomes apparent that he was not rehabilitated properly. He escapes, begins to wreak havoc on the policemen who, for the most part, have never had to deal with violence in their whole life because everything's so peaceful. The cops, therefore, decide to unthaw Spartan, believing that it will take a violent police officer to apprehend a violent criminal. We're going to take a look at some of the humor in this movie, along with some of the action when the policemen first come into contact with Simon Phoenix in the year 2032.
Maniac is imminent. Request advice.
With a firm tone of voice, demand maniac lie down with hands behind back.
Simon Phoenix, lie down with your hands behind your back.
What's this? 6 of you. Such nice, tidy uniforms.
Oh, I'm so scared. What, you guys don't have sarcasm anymore?
Maniac has responded with a scornful remark.
Approach and repeat ultimatum in an even firmer tone of voice. Add the words, or else.
Simon Phoenix, lie down on the ground, or else.
Okay.
We're police officers. We're not trained to handle this kind of violence.
All right, and that's a film, Demolition Man, that came out last Friday. Aaron, this is a futuristic adventure. Is it up your alley or what here?
Oh, this was really, really funny. There were a lot of funny instances in this film that it's a play on futuristic films.
Yeah, I thought for the most part, you see the coming attractions and the trailers, you think this is something like Terminator or something. I thought the movie was far more successful as a comedy than it was the action. In fact, there were times when the action was up there, I'm like, let's get on with some of the comedy.
Nobody cares about the action.
Yeah, the action's not real exciting because the rest of the movie's so funny. This may be kind of Sylvester Stallone's the last action hero in a way.
And as we noticed, they paid homage to Arnold Schwarzenegger in this one.
Yeah, Arnold
like
Schwarzenegger.
Like Arnold paid homage to Sylvester Stallone in Last Action
There's
Hero.
a lot of humor in this film, and it's one of the only thing I think that might hurt the movie is it may be a little confusing. People go in to the film, particularly I went into it thinking it was action. For the first half of the movie, I was like, wait a second, this is kind of stupid, kind of corny. But I heard everyone laughing, and about a half hour into the film, I started realizing maybe it is supposed to be funny, and then I kind of lightened up and started enjoying it, and I was really impressed with how funny Stallone was.
Stallone was funny, and so was Sandra Bullock, his
she was adorable,
co-partner.
Right? She was a doll.
Yeah, she's done some films here in Atlanta. She was also in The Vanishing.
Snipes was good. He sort of played his role the way Jack Nicholson played the Joker, just overboard, crazy. Like I said, more of a comedy. It reminded me a lot of Sylvester Stallone, one of his first films that ever came out, Death Race 2000.
Exactly.
Remember that? It was kind of this satire on the future. That was kind of so bad it was good. Whereas this is, I think the comedy is really the key to this film.
Exactly. So what do you give this film, Steve?
I'm going to go with 2 stars.
I'm going to give it 3.
3. I'm going to go with 2 because if it had focused all on comedy or all on action, it probably would have been better. As it was, it kind of was kind of mediocre at both. It tried to do too much.
I approached it as a comedy. That's why I gave it 3. Okay,
all
let's
right.
take this phone call here. Hello, caller?
Yes, this goes to Steven. Steven, hey, this is Mark.
Hey, what's up?
Not much. Really enjoy the show, Steve.
All right, glad you do that.
Hey, listen, there's a film being shot down in Sonoya, Georgia called The War with Kevin Costner. You heard who's produced this movie? What do they expect from this movie?
I can tell you who to call. Call the Georgia Film Commission. They have a production line. You can find out who's producing it. Okay? Do that tomorrow. The number starts 651 something, but I'll leave it up to you to go ahead and get the rest of it. It's the Georgia Film Commission, and they're up on every film that's being filmed here.
Yeah, I'm not up on the who's producing that. I know Costner has a film coming out in the near future where he actually plays a bad guy.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, they say that this film is apparently an Emmy winner, so that's why I asked.
Okay,
right.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for calling, Mark. And let's get on with Atlanta's Top 10. Let's see what's hot this week.
We're going to take a look at the Atlanta Top 10. These are the films that you guys went to see this weekend. You paid money for, so you can't blame us. Number 10 is Mr. Nanny. Barely squeaks in the top 10 in its first week of release.
The Hulk Hogan starring in that one.
I'm running out to the theater right now to see it.
Kids might love it.
Number 9 is The Fugitive. Drops 2 spots the 10th week in the top 10. This is Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones at their best. Number 8 is Mr. Jones. This is Richard Gere and Lena Olin. It's a disappointing debut at number 8.
I thought it was mediocre. It kind of really went on too long, I thought.
It's another film that deals with mental illness, if you're into that.
Yeah, as long as you're looking
you got to be crazy to go to a film like this.
As long as you look like Richard Gere, doesn't matter how crazy you are. Girls are going to love you.
Number 7 is For Love or Money, the Michael J. Fox attempt at a comeback after Life with Mikey. It falls from number 5 to number 7. At number 6 is the Martin Scorsese film Age of Innocence. It remains at number 6 for the second week. At number 5 is The Program, dropping from number 3. This has James Caan and a cast of others about the athletic programs at colleges and universities. At number 4 is Macaulay Culkin's The Good Son, a ripoff of The Bad Seed. Was number 2 last week, now drops to number 4. Rising from number 4 to number 3 is Cool Runnings, the film inspired by the true story of the first Jamaican Olympic bobsled team. It stars John Candy. At number 2 this week is Malice. Falls out of the top spot after 1 week in release, and it stars Alec Baldwin and Nicole Kidman. At number 1 this week is a film we just reviewed, Demolition Man, with Wesley Snipes and Sylvester Stallone. It's the biggest fall opening in history.
That's what they're predicting, all right. In the national top 10, The Bronx Tale is in there at number 9, and The Joy Luck Club is in at number 6. No longer in the top 10, Warlock falls out after 2 weeks. It got as high as number 6. Let's see. The Bronx Tale only lasted 1 week. However,
it's still in the top 15, though.
Yeah, and nationally it's number 9. And Striking Distance lasted 3 weeks. I've never seen a movie at number 1 fall out of the top 10 so quickly.
Well,
3 weeks.
That's as soon
starts
as
at number
everybody's
one.
seen it, and then they just go away.
Yeah. So anyway, let's get on with our Critics' Choice this week. Like I said, it's our favorite avant-garde films, our little artsy type films that you may not have heard of. Remember, Critics' Choice is the purpose of Critics' Choice is to give you suggestions for movies to go watch at the video store that you might not have heard of. Aaron, what's yours?
Okay, my favorite avant-garde films. Number 3 is Blue Velvet, the 1986 film directed by David Lynch and starring Kyle MacLachlan, Laura Dern, and Isabella Rossellini. It's a story about a young man's involvement in a small-town mystery. Also stars Dennis Hopper in an excellent comeback role as the villain. Number 2 is Delicatessen. It's a French film, came out in 1991, directed by Jean-Pierre Jeunet. It's about a landlord who slices humans into cutlets for non-vegetarian tenants. It's a very bizarre film. I suggest that you check this out if you're into that kind of cuisine. Anyway, my number 1 film is Eraserhead. Came out in 1978, directed by David Lynch. Stars Jack Nance, Charlotte Stewart. It's a story about a zombie-like misfit, his spastic girlfriend, and their half-human child, and their misadventures in the world. Those are my top 3 avant-garde films. Steve?
All right, mine, get back to David Lynch there. He seems to have a lot of them in there. Blue Velvet's a good one, all right. But my number 3 is The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover, which came out in 1990, directed by Peter Greenaway. It's set in a magnificent restaurant that's owned by the thief. His wife, named Georgina, has suffered enough physical and mental abuse at the hands of her husband, so she embarks on an adulterous affair with one of the restaurant's patrons named Michael. Now, they have sexual escapades throughout the restaurant, and their secret is only known by the cook, who constantly covers up for them whenever their romance seems threatened. There's a scene at the beginning of the movie where Michael, the lover, says to Georgina that her husband is something of curiosity. And is he ever? I think this is one of the most disgusting, vile, repugnant men you'll ever find. I mean, this guy eats in his own restaurant every night, beats up the customers, throws food on his own customers, beats his wife, cusses, spits, burps, have table manners of a caveman. And what's so amazing about the film, why I liked it, is because you're constantly kept wondering, like, what in the world is this guy going to do next? This is definitely a bizarre film. Nothing in this film makes sense physically. People's clothes change color from scene to scene. It's set in this huge warehouse-like restaurant. It looks like a dungeon or something. It's so enormous. It's so surreal. And when this film came out, it was greeted with a lot of, I don't know what to call it, controversy, because it was released unrated. And I don't know if it's because of violence, sex, or just general disgusting subject matter. But it was one of 2 films that came out just before the NC-17 rating. I've heard it was rated NC-17. In the video store, it's rated R, but it says original uncut version. I don't really think it deserves all the hype of being that violent, to tell you the truth. And I also heard this is really a political attack on Margaret Thatcher. How anyone ever derived that from watching this film, I have no idea, but that's what I read. Anyway, really bizarre film, some great music by Michael Nyman, one of my favorite soundtracks of all time. Second film, The Wicker Man. This came out in 1973. Police officer Howie receives an anonymous letter from one of the residents of Summer Isle claiming that a girl has been missing. He hops on an airplane and journeys over to the Scottish island. He is greeted by a number of nice town people, but it soon becomes apparent that they're trying to cover up the girl's disappearance. As he delves deeper and deeper into the mystery, he finds out that these people are really pagans who still worship the sun god and the harvest god and still practice human sacrifice. Like I said, this has been praised as the greatest horror film ever. I don't really think it's a horror film. What it is really is an erotic adventure, erotic mystery, I should say. Very sexual, a lot of bizarre sexual rites, a lot of weird pagan rituals and stuff like that. Some great folk music from the Scottish folk music that really keeps this film going. Check it out. And though I don't consider it a horror film, it does have one of the most disturbing endings that I've ever seen. Really, really terrible. Anyway, my favorite film of all time came out in 1992. It's called Waterland. Stars Jeremy Irons. This is a very artistic film. It's about an Englishman who's teaching history in Pittsburgh, and when his students ask him, like, what's so important about studying history, he begins to tell them stories about it when he grew up in the 1940s in the English Fens. He's trying to do this so he can relate to the students as well as get his conscience off about his bad... Wait a second here. We got a phone call. No, people here are disturbing me, and I'm losing my concentration here. I know we got a phone call, so just hold on a second here. Anyway, wonderful film, great storytelling. If you've ever had a relative where you're constantly wanting them to tell you stories, and you're saying, tell us more, tell us some more, it's like that. Very similar to Fried Green Tomatoes in that aspect. Although I completely botched that review, let's go on to the phone call. Caller, you're on the air.
Go ahead, caller.
Hello?
Yeah.
Go ahead. You had a question?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Bye.
Oh, well. I guess he hated that review so much he didn't even want to ask his question.
We threw him off,
Thanks for
obviously.
calling
We threw
anyway.
him off, and you threw off. Okay.
All right, let's get on with the video reviews. This is what's video
These are
releases.
what's
This is
being released
coming
on
out
home
this
video.
week. On video release this week, we have Excessive Force, which, have you seen that one, Aaron?
No, I haven't, Steve.
I have not either. And Indecent Proposal, which we gave 3 stars.
3
Now,
stars firm, too.
3 stars firm.
That's with Demi Moore and Robert Redford.
You must have
and
liked it. I didn't like
Woody
it. all that
Harrelson.
much. I thought it turned kind of stupid there at the end. Unbelievable. But anyway, on
Very controversial film.
On pay-per-view, which is Channel 45 this month, we have Intimate Obsession. Sounds like a winner. Loaded Weapon 1, which we gave 1.5 stars. Fire in the Sky, which you gave 2 stars, sort of like a true version of...
Close Encounters.
Well, or more of like a National Enquirer version. And also Groundhog Day, which we gave 3 stars. And that's what's on pay-per-view this week. Check Channel 45 for showtimes.
Okay, each week on Film Forum we have a special guest. This week is no different. We have Kurt Wilson. He is a sign painter, and we'd like to welcome Kurt to the show. Kurt?
How you doing today, Kurt?
Thanks for coming on the show, Kurt.
So is a sign painter like something that every movie needs?
Every movie that was done before 1980 has period signs, and all movies before the 80s were painted by hand. And so you need someone who's capable of painting signs and doing it very quickly in horrible conditions under tremendous pressure. And there are very few people who actually find that fun. I'm one who does.
All right, now let me jump in right
Go
here. You're
ahead.
saying prior to 1980?
Before the 80s, when computers began to encroach into the sign business, almost all signs were made by craftsmen by hand.
And now they're done by computer?
Almost, I'd say 80%, 90% of the sign business is automated in some way or another.
So I understand, I see that you came in here in your sign painting clothes.
I came here from Greenville, where I worked 10 hours making Greenville over for a Disney film called My Precious Teatop. Tomorrow I'll be on The Last Confederate Widow Tells All.
That sounds great. And I understand you brought some of the stuff that you've done.
Sample, I do both art.
And these have to look like, okay.
As
this
well.
Over here. Here, I'll do it. Okay, here we go. Okay. Can you get this? All right.
As well as hand lettering, and this happens to be from Mississippi in the 50s, something that you won't see anymore, thank goodness.
So it was one over a water fountain, I would assume.
I would think so.
Or a
something
restroom,
of that
wasn't it?
nature.
From what movie?
This was from a television movie called Through Hazel Eyes.
So most of the stuff then you're doing, like if you go look back at like Driving Miss Daisy, how they did the stores, the Piggly Wiggly, is that
Exactly,
the one?
that sort of thing.
That's the kind of
Murals
stuff you're doing?
and signs, and it's all done by hand, and we do sometimes a month's worth of signs in a day.
So you would be doing a mural. And this is where they couldn't use a computer, correct?
Exactly. Everything I do has to be done to look exactly like they were done at that time.
So have you found computers then taking business away from you?
In the commercial sign business, only people who really appreciate the tradition or want a particular look will pay to have someone do it by hand. I don't do very much commercial work anymore. I came to Atlanta specifically to work in this business. I had done a couple of movies in Florida and really liked it. I heard there was a lot of stuff going on here that would be of interest to me. And I started doing The Real McCoy the second day I was in Atlanta, and I've pretty much worked since then.
Which signs did you do in The Real McCoy?
Oh, gosh, all kinds of things. I did a big Coca-Cola sign, and when we first talked, we talked about Coca-Cola murals, and it seems like almost every movie that I've been in has a tremendous Coca-Cola sign.
Down here in Atlanta, I guess that would be...
Atlanta should be real
I guess
happy
they probably
about
are
that.
donating some money to the productions there, aren't they?
Well, I don't know.
Now, how did you get your first job working in film?
Or better yet, how do you get started in this?
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of a tough bit. I think you would have to have been doing sign painting for a while to shift over to this because the conditions are pretty brutal at times, and you really have to know what you're doing. But Burt Reynolds called a friend of mine on a Sunday, and no other sign shops were interested in doing his work. He was in the middle of a movie of the week thing. My friend called me, and we jumped on it and stayed with it continuously throughout the whole playing of the B.L. Stryker series. The art director from that went on to work on Backdraft, and one thing leads to another. It's very much who you know kind of business.
So then you were working just in a sign shop, like
I
your
was
local
doing
sign
signs
shop, doing signs
independently.
for businesses and that type of stuff?
I was lettering yachts, and my friend had a commercial sign shop, and he said, geez, would you like to do this? It sounds like a lot of fun.
So that's all it took then?
That's all it took.
And you have an art background then?
I have a fine arts degree in printmaking, and I very rarely make prints. I paint and sculpt and have a lot of fun, but my living is doing this in the movies.
What's one of your worst nightmares as far as doing a sign? Have you had like an experience where
my worst nightmare is that the phone would quit ringing.
No, I'm saying what's your worst nightmare on a set where you've had to make a sign or it's like broken down or something?
Everything, every time is your worst nightmare. Today was a typical day in the movies where there was problems getting supplies. We were out of town, we're under a terrible strain, and I probably will go home and paint a couple of banners for tomorrow because they ran out of banner material on the set today. So my day isn't even over yet.
You ever do anything out in Hollywood, or is everything over here?
Everything has been here, and thank goodness we're doing it here now. Folks, they're doing an awful lot in Georgia.
I've heard opposite about it. Was it one of our shows? I remember someone saying there was a lot of union problems, that they were actually, New York and Hollywood were trying to scare people away from coming down here to Georgia.
Oh, I think they would like to.
Well, I think that finally got worked out. If you want to check into this, like I said, if you want to call the Georgia Film Commission and find out what productions are being done here, they also have a newsletter. So, well, Kurt, we're about out of time. We want to thank you for being on the show
tonight. Thanks for having me.
Thanks a lot, Kurt. I always learn something new on the Film Forum.
Well, that's all the time we've got. Be with us next week on Film Forum when we'll have 2 feature releases. Our special guest will be a special effects designer, and our Critics' Choice will be Ghost Stories. That's next week on Film Forum. By the way, don't forget to call our Film Forum feedback number. What is it, Steve?
It is 798
6981. 6981. That's our
right.
Film Forum feedback line.
Do you have any
Until
suggestions?
then, see you next Tuesday.